Hello, welcome to SyncOrSwim, podcast where two idiots discuss the good, the bad and the ugly of music in TV, film and gaming. I'm Jules, and with me is Prentice.
Hello, that's me.
So...
Bit of a weird emphasis on my name there.
Yeah, I don't know, because I was trying to say,
First time jitters, right?
Yeah, it is the first one, as you'll no doubt know, but yeah, I thought we've just discussed off air whether or not to do surnames, and then I said mine. And then went to say Prentice Mitchell, which is a second name, and just thought, no, we're not doing that, are we?
Prentice?
Yeah, because I was about to go Prentice Mitchell, but then I caught myself on Tiss. I had to sort of stop myself. I was like, Tiss? Alright, okay. That
indicative of things to come.
Yeah, I don't expect to get much better from here.
It's the big day.
Yeah.
First episode.
First one that's going out, yeah. It feels like a long time. And in fact, you'll know how much it's a long time is because in the news section, which was coming up, it's literally going to be, we're going to talk about Grammy and all the awards season news, and that's exactly what we talked about a year ago when we did the first version of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll just give you a brief overview of what's going to happen. We're going to do a little bit of news, and then we're going to talk all things Wandavision that's just come out. We're going to just talk all about the music and that, and yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm starting to. This is the right time to do Wandavision because obviously it's been part of the zeitgeist, and we've been doing research and watching all the music stuff for it because as we'll say, if you don't know, it's highly stylized, and we've been going through all of the really catchy music, and it's starting to drive me a little bit insane. So anyway, we'll get to that in due course, but yeah, we should do some news. And so Prentice, you've stayed away from the awards news because you're far less interested in all this kind of stuff than I am.
Yeah.
So the Grammy Awards have been awarded a couple of who cares, but a few days ago. So things to pick out. We kind of I know it's a podcast with music, film, but really we don't really want to get into all the nitty gritty of the Grammys because it's not. We just want to get to sort of the interesting stuff. So first thing of note is that Billie Eilish won Best Original Song for Visual Media for her Bond theme, No Time to Die.
Oh, wow. Is that the first time that someone's won the award for that before the film's actually come out?
It must be. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's going to be a common thing because a lot of this year for the pandemic that must not be named, a lot of the films and stuff have either just been released or have just been on streaming. So a lot of the stuff, later on, there's a category that I wanted to talk about for Oscars, but I've seen none of the films, so we can't. But yeah, so I think so, yeah. I mean, the theme's been out, and I actually quite like it.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's one of the strongest Craig ones. Probably my favourite since the Casino Royale theme, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, yeah.
I mean, obviously, Skyfall is great, but a combination of kind of not being enamoured with Adele's kind of more her songs than I think she's incredibly talented, but yeah, not really into her kind of start her songs. And the Sam Smith one I was more into than a lot of other people. Really? I wasn't a big fan of it, but a lot of people seem to hate it, whereas I was lukewarm on it. But yeah, I really think Chris Cornell's Casino Royale theme is probably still my favourite, and I think the Billie Eilish one comes the closest for me to being as good as that. Yeah,
I was initially sceptical because I was like, I had a horror thought of them trying to look bad, a sort of version of bad guy for James Bond.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dear.
It's cropped up enough in enough other media to
that it has no business
surprise me. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, and this is she actually gets to show, her and her brother get to show she's actually got some good pipes because a lot of the time in her music she doesn't actually get to show her pipes a lot because it's all kind of emo-y,
very whispery and
yeah. Joker, the person who did the score, the person who wrote the score, which if there's any Norwegian listeners,
God, yeah.
please forgive me.
I mean, she's awesome. Yeah, her name is very difficult to pronounce.
Hilda Gonditor. That's appalling, but you can look it up. It's the person who did the Joker score, Hilda Gonditor. She won best score. Nice. She won best it's kind of like best the Grammys version of best score.
Okay.
I can't remember what the actual category is called, but
yeah.
Which I think is great because actually that's one of the few awards I think Joker did deserve to win.
Yeah, 100%.
Is the score.
One of the strongest elements I feel of that film.
It's really excellent. But one thing that caused me to I don't think it was a proper meltdown, but it was a little bit of like oh, for God's sake. I feel like that film has been around and getting awards for like 3 years.
Yeah, we saw that. When did that come out? It was 2019, right?
2019, yeah. So
it must have appeared like literally a day or two too late to be considered for the 2020 ones, right?
Well, that's what I thought. But then I looked, and it won the Oscar for Best Score last year. So it's won a Grammy this year for the same piece of music that won an award last year. So who the fuck knows what's going on? Yeah. I don't get what's going on there. But yeah, I did think that was a really good. But I'm sort of poisoned against that film now. So any win of any category in that film, I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah, you're listening to two people who don't really like Joker very much.
It's understandable.
Yeah, like it's fine. Not as good as I don't know, a lot of Joker acolytes would have you believe it
good
is.
Good phrase. That's a really good phrase.
A lot of Joker boys out there on the streets would have you think it is, but yeah, it's it's fine. It's a Scorsese film that's not as good as a Scorsese film. Basically, it's Taxi. It's the King of Comedy, but not as good.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a good version of the Joker, watch King of Comedy. But yeah, no, the score for Joker is amazing. It's really haunting and beautiful, and yeah, she really deserved it, I think.
And it's also ushered in. I mean, this is technically not the score. I don't think this was Hilda. I think it was someone else, but I don't know who was involved. But they used Nat King Cole's "Smile." Am I right?
They did in the trailer. Yeah, they trailered up "Smile."
It was like the featured song from the thing, and it's now ushered in a new wave of like. There's a new film called Cruella that's come out, and it's basically just it's ripping off the film, and then B they've used like a very similar idea of taking an old song and like making a trailer.
Is it Connie Francis? Is it her? Is it one of her songs?
What song is it?
Who's Laughing Now, right?
Yeah,
Connie Francis.
Yeah.
And so they've trailered up in exactly the same way.
One thing that surprised me, I had to look this up afterwards, that Jojo Rabbit won Best Compiled Soundtrack.
Right.
Fuck knows what that actually means, but which is weird because I don't remember that having a particularly the only two memorable bits of score soundtrack from that is the beginning, basically the beginning and the end. And the end's a little rote, but the beginning is genius. It's the German version of "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And they sort of soft parody at the beginning of Hard Day's Night, where he like runs through the street and there's loads of like screaming girls and like fans, but like it's of Hitler instead of the Beatles.
Yeah.
So that bit is absolutely genius.
Yeah. But no, that's an odd choice. Yeah, not a terrible choice, but yeah, no, I'd agree. Yeah, not probably the go-to for that category that I'd expect. But yeah. Man, these fucking award category names are so dumb.
Well, they
tell me who won best sound from a musical instrument in a musical or comedy? Who won that award? who won best 5 notes from a brass instrument?
who won best trumpet solo in a horror film?
Yeah, exactly. Like fucking hell.
Yeah, they're so you are convincing me slowly by the day that these things are to be taken with less and less seriousness or interest. A couple of things. Move on to Oscars. Two sort of things that I want to pick out is that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross continue their utter domination of sound scoring, of film scoring. So they are nominated twice in the same year. Once for the Pixar film Soul, and once for the film Mank, which is the Making a Citizen Kane film. They're only a Tony off an EGOT now. So and then we're gonna rep the brothers here. Terence Blanchard has also been nominated for his The Five Bloods, I think. Which also is an older film.
Yeah. Quite late.
Clearly just being nominated for like that, and he must have missed the cutoff as you mentioned earlier. But yeah, that he's a really underrated film composer. He's kind of Spike Lee's.
What else has he done?
He's Spike Lee's in-house guy. So he did Black Klansman, which he was also nominated for an Oscar for. And that score is actually, I'll probably do that for the podcast because that is a fantastic score.
Okay.
So I think I can't
go back and listen to some of those.
I can't name you anything else off the top of my head that Terence has done, But those two things alone are like top. And he's probably done some more Spike Lee stuff, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be his major pay packet. Because he's in-house Spike's in-house guy.
Nice.
Do you have anything? I mean, you used very much media and heavy lifting this week for the news, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bit of interest. The Snyder Cut leaked, which is quite funny.
Typical.
Yeah.
Where that franchise and all that sort of creative team are at,
yeah. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, the terrible superhero film. Well, I say terrible. Completely average.
Swinging.
Not. Yeah. No. Okay. That was the completely average superhero film Justice League from 2017 is being kind of recut with loads of new footage that's been shot and then kind of stuff that was left on the cutting room floor by Zack Snyder, who was the original director on that before he stepped down and gave it to Joss Whedon, who turned out the 2017 version. Yeah, Snyder's gone back and he's kind of redone, and they've rebranded it Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's one of the big selling points for the new HBO Max subscription service. But yeah, they dropped their their new Tom and Jerry film recently, and a few people got some surprises in the first couple of hours of when that dropped. They started watching it and saw the first few hours of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is quite funny. Heard a few bits and pieces. But I think I don't think many people actually saw it, and I think one of them got shut down in some way. I think his Twitter got either suspended or like YouTube or something. He put some information out there, but something he tweeted has been left up saying basically that like everyone's gonna love it. Apparently, this is the first time that DC CGI has looked up there with Marvel CGI and stuff. So he's he was kind of singing the praises. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. What else have we got? The original Wandavision plans came out for the final episode. I don't know if you hear much about that.
Oh, no, you go on that. I haven't heard much about
it. So there was just a few leaks about basically like the production of the last episode was quite rushed. They didn't have much time to finish it, and so there was quite a few ideas that were cut out. I think one of the big ones was the two children fighting Mr. Scratchy, Agatha's bunny, and he would turn into like a demon of some sort and all that. Apparently they shot this scene, but they just didn't have time to finalise the CGI or anything.
Okay.
And hence why the kids got that probably terrible flash in the pan action scene where they freeze a load of soldiers and then the one with super speed takes his guns. takes their guns, sorry. Probably explains why that finale is the way it is.
Yeah.
That it was slightly rushed, I feel. There's a few bits and pieces here and there that, yeah.
Felt like a quick fix.
Yeah, it really did. But yeah, early reactions to Falcon and the Winter Soldier are pretty positive. I mean,
that's what you said.
Absolutely nothing to go by. Early reactions of Batman v Superman were positive, so let's move on. Disney Plus has reached a massive subscriber milestone. They're due to overtake Netflix at some point relatively soon. By relatively soon, I mean within years. But it's still pretty impressive considering they've been around for about a year and a half and Netflix have been around for about a decade.
Wow, that's mad.
Yeah, it's been a pretty rapid catch up. I suppose that's what literally all the money in the world buys you.
Yeah, Netflix. Basically, Disney have all the money. Netflix has no money, so it's not surprised. Netflix are basically they're beyond broke. They're actually in debt. So
yeah,
they like Disney. Like a while ago, when they were at their peak, they were doing a lot of original stuff, and now they don't do any. They occasionally do, but they take down more original stuff than they make now. So
yeah. So this week on Sink or Swim, we're doing Wandavision. So yeah, I guess to start it off, what do you think of the show overall? Is probably the
in a general sense or musically?
Why not both? Let's just start
overall,
with general ideas.
Overall, I really liked it in what it tried to do. The idea of it is really cool. I think that. Oh, by the way, spoilers for WandaVision. If you haven't seen it, please don't listen to any further. I'm going to give you 3 seconds. 1, 2. So
it was Agatha all along.
Don't, because I'll start humming it, and then it's going to be a nightmare to edit. So yeah, overall,
John Krasinski is Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, overall, I really like the whole thing. It's based around, it's an homage to, well, 75% of it is an homage to like classic American sitcoms,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the way they, they did all the like the music. As we'll get to, the music was all like era appropriate. The costumes, or like the effects, everything is really. Like, I thought that was excellent.
Yeah.
Narratively, though, I think it was a little muddled, and my personal, I finally came up with a good summing up of what I believe where the show kind of is that I feel like they had the idea for the homage for the sitcoms and then worked backwards.
Yes.
Which is why that bit works so brilliantly, and then the rest of it kind of feels rushed or disjointed.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you feel that the narrative suffered at the expense of the concept?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. I mean, it's still decent, but by all means, this is still a decent show, and I would recommend it.
Good show.
Yeah.
Good show.
What did I say?
Decent.
Oh, well, I meant good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I meant decent.
Yeah, like definitely, it's. I mean, it looks incredible
for the spectacle alone.
For the most part, yeah,
Spectacle alone.
It's one of the better offerings from Marvel, 100%. It takes creative kind of liberties or kind of steps that not much Marvel stuff has before. So on that kind of thing alone, yeah, definitely recommended.
So yeah, that's. What about you? Sorry, I'm waffled on a little bit. But...
Yeah, no, I mean, I sort of basically gave my feelings there when I sort of jumped in. Yeah, great show, good, like really good stuff. Yeah, like you say, the kind of the homages and the music and kind of the everything that's done to serve the concept is excellent. Yeah, like the even down to like the performances from Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen and all the rest of the supporting cast is so like perfect to like those kind of classic sitcom styles, and the writing of the dialogue is spot on. The set designs, costumes, spot on, music, spot on, like everything's great. And like, as we saw from that documentary, they even went down to the minute level of using, tungsten lights rather than LED lights to light the set, because that was how it was done back then. They used camera lenses from the 50s, 60s, 70s because they wanted it to look authentic to that era. And you, even the crew dressed up in era-appropriate outfits when they filmed the live episodes.
That was incredible.
But it just and the audience, not even the crew, the audience all turned up in their fineries from the 50s and the 60s when they did those live audience episodes. So yeah, I mean, it really, all that stuff does go a long way, and it is really immersive. And those first sort of 4 episodes really did feel quite exciting. Because you just didn't know where it was going. And it was they really balanced the kind of the humour and like the marvelness with that kind of with that really unsettling kind of vibe.
Yeah. It was sort of, well, I think
Twin Peaksy.
Yeah,
which I really like.
I think
X-Files, Twin Peaks, Millennium stuff, all kind of stuff.
Not to do a really horrible pun.
Pleasant View, I think, is probably the best comparison.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I take your word for it. Not to do a horrible pun, but it peaked for me in sort of episode 3 to sort of 5 maybe, where they balanced the sort of brilliant genre sitcom stuff with the kind of weird off-kilter Twin Peaks stuff, sort of X-Files-y kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When they still had loads of cards to play, it was kind of like, I mean, I'm bad at poker, but it's like having you think, who has a good hand, and then when they actually laid their cards out, it was kind of, they bust.
It was all a bluff.
But I guess we should talk about the music, and like I think the most iconic thing, iconic is probably a little strong, but the thing that I think people will remember, especially
it's the enduring legacy of Wandavision.
I think will be
the music,
the themes they use. So every episode. So the show moves. The first episode is set in the 50s, and then it's set in the 60s and the 70s and 80s and 90s, and then 2000s, and then it drops that facade after episode 7 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, they every time they do like an introduction, they do a theme. But they ape a classic sitcom from that era. So the first one is a brilliant parody of like the Dick Van Dyke Show and I Love Lucy.
Yeah, I think I Love Lucy is probably the biggest touchstone. They mentioned that a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's really.
So the theme's called A Newlywed Couple.
Yeah. You should. We should mention all the themes were done by Christian and Robert.
Bobby and Kristen.
Oh, sorry.
Bobby Lopez and his wife Krisitin-Anderson Lopez. Yeah, they did all of the theme songs for each episode. So yeah, we should probably talk about them a bit because they're kind of key to this whole operation, obviously. So Bobby Lopez, he is probably, prior to his affiliation with Disney, probably best known for co-creating the Book of Mormon and Avenue Q. two musicals, comedy musicals, namely. The Book of Mormon is in co-production with the South Park guys, right? Trey Parker and Matt Stone, I think.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a comedy musical, and he was one of the co-creators of that and did a lot of the music for that. And Avenue Q is similar vibe. I'm not sure who else worked on it, but it's basically the Muppets but adults. So it looks at kind of, I think it's set kind of in like a kind of metropolitan city with a bunch of like young adult kind of professionals, but they're all played by Muppets. And they're dealing with things like mental health problems and stressful relationships and struggling at work and career progression and you know, casual drug use and all that kind of stuff. And I listened to a little bit of the soundtrack and it's very funny. But yeah, so that's probably what he's best known for. And his wife, Kristen-Anderson Lopez, she co-created In Transit, which is probably a very famous. I mean, I'm no expert on this, but it was an off-Broadway musical that ran for quite a while, and it was really successful, and it eventually went on Broadway. But yeah, so she co-created that, and then they both worked together on Finding Nemo the musical. Is one of the early Disney credits I found. Yeah. And then probably more well known for doing Coco, Frozen, and Frozen 2. They did a lot of the songs for. Obviously, Let It Go, probably one of the biggest songs of the last decade, penned by those two. So that gives you an idea of the kind of prestige that their name carries in this world.
So they did all the themes, and then the score was done by someone called Christoph Beck.
Yes, yeah. Brother of Chili Gonzalez.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's actual like half brothers or
no. I think he's his brother.
Oh, so
straight up his brother.
Very different names then.
Yeah. I'm not sure why that's the way it is, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, Chili Gonzalez, amazing pianist, amazing kind of neoclassical pianist.
He didn't play on it, did he? He's not credited.
Don't think so, no. But yeah, did you have a look into Christoph Beck's body of work by any chance?
No.
Oh my god. So Christoph Beck, he has done compositions for Elektra, Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a good one.
Oh yeah.
The Hangover, The Muppets 2011. Ant-Man 2.
Oh, I know he did the Ant-Man films.
Yeah. Frozen and Frozen 2.
Okay,
and a lot of crap. Crap.
He's not doing Oscar bait films, is he?
No. I'm sorry, Christoph, you ever hear this, but man, that is there's some ropey stuff on there, my friend. But yeah, no, Ant-Man, to be fair though, in his defense, Frozen and Frozen 2 have both got really good scores. And I think Ant-Man and Ant-Man 2 have both, Ant-Man 1 especially, is probably one of the most underrated kind of scores. I think the score for Ant-Man 1 is excellent. Probably one of the strongest scores in the MCU.
Which one is 1 or 2, do you say?
Ant-Man 1.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's quite a good score, actually. Yeah.
So we've got Bobby and Kristen Lopez working on doing the main themes, and we've got Christoph Beck doing the score. So this is a very Marvel Disney kind of very typical kind of people you'd expect to do this kind of stuff.
It's a real Disney loving, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit Disney-cest. Dizcest.
Oh,
but yeah, did you know? So Bobby Lopez, he's we were talking about awards earlier.
Yeah.
He's the youngest and quickest person to win an EGOT.
At
39, and he won them all in really rapid succession. He's the fastest to win an EGOT between getting the first award and getting the final one to complete it. He was the youngest at 39 years old, and he's the only person to have won an EGOT twice.
I saw that's the big thing I saw from him. Yeah, double EGOT, man.
Well, not only did he win it twice, he was the youngest, and he was the fastest to complete the first EGOT as well.
And by the way, if you don't know, an EGOT is when you, as a composer, you win an Emmy. No, sorry.
It's not just necessarily anyone can win it.
Anyone.
But it's winning an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that just shows like his. I mean, you don't really need any more credentials than that, do you? Really, just go on double EGOT, sign me up, son. Yeah. So the things I'm borderline going insane because I haven't been able to get any of the themes out. They're just on a revolving disc in my head. So yeah, the first one is like.
Also, sorry, just to jump in quickly, but did you think that Bobby Lopez looked a bit like Mark Lebet? You know, the Beast from The Chase. The Chaser.
I think that's being a little unkind.
He looks a bit like him. Do you know that guy married his cousin? It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's go.
Whoa! Just brought that in.
Yeah.
What? I mean, oh wow. Okay. I mean, I want to talk about that further, but I don't know if this is the time or place to do that. It's all the incest podcast. Yeah,
That's a real theme coming through here.
So the first theme, we'll go through all of them, I think, because they're all worthy of like their own dissection. I think, well, I personally think they are. The first one is like very like 50s. It's very kind of idyllic, and there's lots of like woodwind and like strings, and it's like
no, there's no strings.
No strings.
No
sorry,
strings,
there's no
because strings. Yeah, they didn't have their strings have kind of gone out of fashion in the 50s. So it's all woodwind and kind of like kind of high end sort of brass stuff. None of that low end sort of bassy sort of brass. It's all high end brass and woodwind and kind of little bits of percussion and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's kind of builds into like the idea. It's sort of all sort of kitsch and farcical and stuff.
Yeah. It's very like that the nuclear age.
Yeah.
The atomic age of kind of music and music that exists to serve kind of sitcoms and commercials. It's all fast and jaunty and kind of happy and light.
I always thought like with the score in general for the first episode and with the theme itself, it's very much like it could be a silent film. Like it feels like it's almost soundtracking a silent film.
Yeah.
And it also the theme has its own. I think probably the second best for me lyrics, because it has like, because as the time, you know, the theme songs always kind of describe what the show is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got like, it has like, it talks about, you know, they're a newlywed couple and he's an android and she's a witch or something like that. And it like, so yeah, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, because often in those shows, actually for the 50s, they're all weird, farcical, kind of unrealistic actual premises.
Yeah.
Like I Love Lucy, I think, is a witch or something. Oh no, she's not a witch. Bewitched is not long after that, and she's a witch.
And you're maybe thinking of I Dream of Jeannie as well.
Yeah, both of those weird things where you think, oh, this is a Marvel thing, but actually basically the same thing happens like in 60s sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think generally in the score, it's very much similar like vibes. So yeah, as I said, like it's very kind of happy and sort of it's all sort of like, it's very nice and 50s family and very sort of traditional, and all the...
I think it's a very functional score for that first episode. Nothing particularly memorable, and not even massively enjoyable for me, like to listen to on its own. But it really serves the tone in the actual episode itself.
Yeah, that is purely for tone.
I haven't really got much else to say about the score beyond after that first episode. I don't know if you...
No. Move on to the 60s stuff, which is episode 2.
Yeah. Oh, is there some soundtrack in the first episode, or is that in episode 2 that they first used the soundtrack?
I don't.
Because the earliest piece of soundtrack I've got is Yakety Yak by the Coasters.
See, that could be 50s.
I think that's the 50s one, because that's a doo-wop song, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that was in the first episode.
I have no idea where that was though.
One of the most horrendously sexist pieces of music I've listened to in quite a long time.
I didn't really listen to it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's a little bit in the same vein as Rabbit by bloody what's their names?
Chaz and Dave.
Chaz and Dave. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean
it's a bit like that. It's
I mean, if you're talking 50s, it's probably a bit accurate, to be honest.
Yeah, but so it's called Yakety Yak, so I think you can tell.
I get the vibe. Women go yakety. Yeah.
It's basically him saying like, stop getting on my back, or like, I won't give you any money, I won't let you out on a Friday night. Like it's quite a grim.
Yeah.
It's horrendously sexist, those lyrics.
Which is quite interesting as well, because like they didn't do that. Like obviously it's all the WandaVision stuff's very accurate, but they didn't go as far as to make like Paul Bettany a monster.
Yeah.
Like they didn't make him like a 50s patriarch, because I think that would have called for Vision to be cancelled.
Yeah. Comes home from work and his dinner's not on the table.
Yeah.
Mind gems the entire house apart.
Yeah.
Laser beams the car into oblivion.
Yeah. God. That's quite funny as well. A lot of this is, the whole idea is all these are idealised as well. So, but you should probably just talk about the 60s one, because you really like the 60s thing.
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more difficult for me to do, because for some reason episode 2 is the only one missing off of Apple Music.
Actually, I have to do heavy lifting because you don't have any notes for this episode. But yeah,
I mean, I can talk about how in that episode "Help Me Rhonda" is featured, right, by the Beach Boys.
Yeah. That's
which is quite a funny, because it's not really relevant apart from the fact that Rhonda sounds like Wanda.
But no, what I liked about it actually is that it very much feels like a key thing in the show is that she builds this thing called a hex around her, which she uses her like magic to create this kind of bubble where she's kind of isolated from the outside world, and she created this weird sitcom universe in this bubble.
Yeah.
And anything from the outside world that goes through is kind of edited so it fits in with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out later that someone's trying to contact her through a radio, but she tunes it out and she changes it. So my idea is that subconsciously she's heard someone say, Wanda, please help us, and she's changed it to Help Me Rhonda, because it's like something that comes to mind quickly because it's a Beach Boys song in the 60s. So I thought that was quite fun.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm being a little bit harsh, but it is fun. Yeah, definitely, it's a great use of it.
Oh, one thing, another couple of bits to mention is that in every episode they have an advert, like a fake advert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they use some interesting stuff. Like in the 60s, I think they do an advert for something called Strucker.
The ring.
It's the ring.
It's like a signet ring, right?
Yeah. And in that, really like smooth, sexy jazz on that.
Yeah.
It's really smooth, sexy jazz, which I really enjoyed. That was. I thought it was like a weird change of pace. It sort of caught me off guard because it was very different to like the smooth sort of hip cat kind of vibe going on.
Yeah, a lot of those do stick out on the scores when you listen to them.
Yeah.
When it gets to the one that's the advert, you really notice it. The one for the toaster in the first episode, the Stark Tech toaster, is a good one. The one in number 3 for the Hydra hot tub.
Oh, that's an absolute banger.
That one's a good one.
I love that.
Yeah, so they do stick out. They're very noticeable. They work in that way quite well.
One last thing for the 60s, which the second episode is the first time where we see something in her world's a bit wrong, but properly. Like there's someone that's like a beekeeper.
Well, I was gonna say the first episode you have the ending where like the guy starts choking and everything sort of starts to break down a bit.
Yeah.
Which is pretty strong as well.
To be fair, yeah. And that music suddenly breaks as well. Like when the reality breaks, the music also gets really tense and horrible. As opposed to like the sort of farce and hijinky stuff that goes on before.
Yeah.
But when like this beekeeper turns up, who turns out to be like a sword agent, he like the music gets really like tense and like there's like strings and it's like really ominous and like deep, which I thought was cool because it's kind of just the whole thing, sort of like the cinematography
changes as well. I know this isn't a cinematography podcast, but I think the music and cinematography almost works in tandem with one another. That when you have those kind of breakdowns of Wanda's fake reality. And it becomes, they see glimpses of, or hear glimpses of the real world. It also goes to like a modern, presumably a modern camera lens and a modern style of shooting someone as well. All of a sudden the shot's way more close up and looks more cinematic. And then as soon as Wanda's kind of faux reality is re-established, it goes back to the classic sitcom, 2-camera sitcom kind of angles.
Yeah, so onto probably my favourite episode for music is 70s. And so the theme is my favourite, I think, although I'm vastly wearing it thin because I've listened to it too much. So the track name is called We've Got Something Cooking.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like...
So this is like the Brady Bunch kind of parody,
It's
right?
the Brady Bunch Partridge Family parody.
Yeah.
Where, it's like... The theme is very much kind of like a family band kind of thing. And it's like soft rock, like early 70s soft rock. And it's got some really nice, like the vocals in it are really nice, and some really nice harmonies.
There's one thing I think we should talk about with these themes is obviously Bobby Lopez is an incredible talent as well, but I think krisitin-Anderson Lopez really needs a shout out for her vocals and her lyrics are excellent.
Yes,
they're so good. The lyrics are really funny. The lyrics made me laugh. It was some of the best laughs I got in every episode was her lyrics, especially in the early ones. They're so perfectly cheesy.
Yeah.
And like so spot on. And her vocals are perfect as well. They're so perfect. Almost for every era basically. Like she nails exactly basically what they sound like.
Yeah. It's really accurate. Well, yeah, and like it's I think people like about the sitcoms that they're paying homage to, they're so cheesy they come back around to be fun.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of those themes, I think the 70s theme definitely does.
Is that the one with the 1 + 1 is more than...
1 + 1 is family.
Yeah.
Which is just, I keep saying that line. It's just brilliant.
It's excellent, yeah.
Yeah, and then the visuals for that as well is really really funny.
When they're on the tandem bike cycling through the town with their terrible 70s hair and stuff. Yeah, it's so good.
But yeah, I just think that the theme is so... I think it's my favourite as a song. Like, I think it holds up. Like, I think the rest of them, a lot of them, bar maybe the 80s and the 90s, they feel like theme songs. But I feel like the 70s one very much feels like a song that they've taken a snippet out of, or they've made it for a thing.
Okay.
I feel like in this world there will be like a full version you could listen to on record.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Also in that episode, it ends with Daydream Believer by the Monkees in episode 3, which is a great use of that. That was really well done. So basically the episode 3 culminates with Monica, who has been in the Hex since
we started watching
the show, since the start of episode 1. And she gets forcefully ejected after confronting Wanda. Something seems to break down a little bit, and she seems to be able to break free of Wanda's control a little bit and starts asking her questions about Ultron and Pietro and stuff. And Wanda, forcefully ejects her from the Hex. And as she comes crashing out of the Hex and hits the floor outside and rolls and all that, she gets surrounded by military vehicles and soldiers. And the camera sort of pans out as Daydream Believer starts playing to reveal the Hex. And we get our first proper look at Westview, and it's this huge dome that Wanda's clearly created around the town. And there's military encampments set up all round outside, and they all run to Monica as Daydream Believer plays. And it really feels like it really works to kick the episode into gear. Like it will kick the series into gear, I feel.
Yeah.
That moment, like stuff, you really get a sense of like, okay, where we're at.
It was a real oh shit moment.
Yeah.
It was like, I think it's probably my favourite bit of like music to the like pure what we call sync, which is like taking a bit of music and putting it over the top of a scene to make it better or to impact it.
Is what we call it.
Yeah. I think there's a track that I thought was a funnier inclusion, but I think that was just like I remember just thinking about that scene all week afterwards. It was the thing I thought about. I just thought that's such a brilliant. Like that song is very cheesy, but they've made it somehow really dramatic.
Yeah.
How have you made the Monkees?
It feels ominous.
Yeah,
because it stands in contrast. Like once you have the stakes set and you realise the extent of all of this.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it makes it ominous because it's this happy piece of music standing in contrast to this kind of, this kind of dramatic scene, and also obviously it's kind of. The lyrics work with that whole kind of, everyone inside the dome is believing in.
Oh yeah, of course.
In Wanda's faux reality, so they're the Daydream Believers, and
it's taken music that belongs in the Hex outside.
Yes,
so there's that there's disconnect that something feels wrong.
Yeah, it's a really really great use of that song.
Talking of Monica, some of my favourite stuff. As I said earlier, there's they do branch a lot of like the stuff, like a lot of the era they go across, and there's a lot of like, to me, she puts in performance while she's under the influence in the Hex. Mm-hmm. She's basically doing a Foxy Brown impression. And as of that, I've noticed in the score, there's definitely a lot of like blaxploitation-esque pieces of music, which I thought that's really kind of a cool nod.
Yeah, kind of that funky 70s kind of score.
Yeah,
with like the synthesized kind of that funky kind of synthesizer and stuff.
Yeah, the sort of wah-wah guitar, and like it sounds a bit like Shaft. It sounds a little bit like Shaft, not to put the obvious one, but like well,
you did.
Yeah, I did. So there you go. And also, there's a lot of. I remember them saying in the documentary, there's a lot of bongos and maracas in this episode, which then kind of gets me the sort of revolution will not be televised.
Oh
kind of
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of beat jazz kind of
beat
stuff.
Jazz, yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So then onto the 80s, which is episode 4. There's no theme for that, which blew my mind.
No, there isn't. Yeah, so that's the. I mean, probably for this reason, we're going to talk about this episode a bit less, I guess. But this is the kind of, in quotation marks, real world episode where we see kind of Monica going into the Hex, and we get kind of her backstory. We get Sword's involvement in everything, and we get kind of Darcy and all that introduced, right?
Yes. So that has, and not again, I think we'll talk about this, but all the stuff that isn't the sort of genre period stuff isn't that interesting, score-wise, personally. Yeah. It's very, like, standard Marvel fare.
It's your classic Marvel stuff, yeah.
It's, like, big brassy bits and sort of ominous strings. It's like, it's nothing really, like, if you listen to anything or watch anything Marvel, it's just that. Yeah. Whatever you're thinking of, it is just that. In your mind, what you're thinking right now is right, but, so yeah, I think there's not really anything really to... Oh, actually, there is one thing of note at episode 4, which is arguably my favourite. If you ask me to name an artist I think will come up in Wandavision, I'd have quite a few guesses before I came up with Jimi Hendrix.
Yes, yeah. Voodoo Child, right?
Yeah, Voodoo Child's Slight Return. because there's actually 2 versions of that on Electric Ladyland.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get all music Nancy on you. So
Don't use that term. That's a horrible term.
we can edit that out. So at the end, Wanda's kids are born, and she sort of sits on the couch or something with them, and there's an indication that she's used some kind of dark magic in bringing them into the world or whatever, because obviously we don't see Vision and her doing the natural way. So it's and they get born in like the whole pregnancy is like a day or something. Something's clearly a bit wrong. So at the end they use voodoo charm, which is obviously sort of illusion of voodoo, like dark magic. So it's great. But it just took me so by surprise. I was like, whoa, hello, it's Jimi Hendrix. Like this gnarly sort of, because it starts like a hot, like grinding guitar riff. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think they really had any sync like this previously in Marvel.
No.
It's very abrasive. Yeah.
Just to go back a little bit as well, which I think is one of the interesting things, is we found out from Bobby Lopez that they use an electric harpsichord, which is what's called a Roxy chord, on the 60s theme song from episode 2. I did a little bit of reading on the Roxy chord. It's actually really interesting. So it's spelled rock, as in rock music, C chord, not with an X.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and the reason for that is because it was invented in 1967 to be used in like the Baroque rock music craze. Oh. And the whole reason was for that is because they wanted to use harpsichord, but an acoustic harpsichord would have been drowned out by the rest of the instruments.
Okay, cool.
So a Roxy chord was invented, and it's actually the first example of an electronic piano.
Ooh, that's cool. That's a great bit of information you found there. And then the 90s episode, they get what I think is only the second ever appearance of like an artist coming in to do a song especially for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill comes and does their themes, does the vocals on there, very, very heavily Malcolm in the Middle inspired 90s thing.
It's called Let's Keep It Going, right?
Let's Keep It Going, which is really great on me now, and I hate it.
I enjoy it. I like it. But yeah, it's a very if you've listened to Bikini Kill, you know what to expect from it. Really, it's or just any of those sitcoms with that kind of theme song. But it's a good one. I like it. I think it works really well tonally as well, with the kind of Evan Peters like super rad 90s dude.
Yeah, that's
kind
his
of persona and stuff. It's great. Did you know that Kathleen Hanna she basically titled Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Really?
Yeah, so she wrote on Kurt Cobain's bedroom wall that Kurt Cobain smells like Teen Spirit in reference to him using this deodorant that was marketed at teenage girls.
Oh, I think I know about this.
Yeah, and so he named Smells Like Teen Spirit after.
That's cool. Yeah. Get some real good gems here today. Some good uncut gems. So that whole intro is very good. Yeah, and Evan Peters is fantastic. It's like that cool dude, that surfer dude, that skater dude. Yeah, and so I mean, a lot of that score is like, I found, not to use a term that I'm woefully sort of out of my depth using, in the pocket.
Okay.
So it's like on the offbeat, like, because a lot of ska punk, American ska punk, is like sort of in that era. So I found a lot of music there was like in like. This
you mean on the score for the episode?
Yeah, I mean on the offbeat. Sorry, not in the pocket. Yeah.
There's some really good little bits of a lot of the tracks are really short, and they kind of just punctuate moments, which I really like. There's a track called Chili Con Carne on that score, which is really good. There's like little bits of maracas and stuff like that here and there, and there's bits where like you kind of almost have like the guitar equivalent of a record scratch, the kind of like where you drag your finger along the string to like kind of punctuate scenes and stuff like it. Yeah, it's a really
very
good,
90s.
Yeah, it's a really good little bit of score on that. I think that's the last good use of the concept. I'm not really a big fan of the 2000s episode, the Modern Family episode, but
we differ on this, but I don't know why, but but
we
know
also
we differ. But
one of the things I do want to mention about the 90s episode as well is that there's a piece of sync in there which I find really funny. There's the track Butterfly, and it's the Upswing mix by the band Smile.dk, who are like a Swedish bubblegum pop band who turned out this absolutely ridiculously intense piece of dance music that was sampled by D'Antverd on their song something Samurai, but they sampled the part that I'm a butterfly.
Oh yeah, Samurai.
And I just thought that was a really really good bit of obscure music to use. It's ridiculously intense.
a couple of other things to mention on the 90s episode is that it's the Halloween themed episode,
Yes,
so there's actually quite a little bit spooky. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit spooky organ and like sort of Addams Family vibes, which I thought was quite a cool thing as well. Like it kind of, and as well with the 90s, it's kind of one of the first postmodern eras. So actually, I found that in a lot of the score there was like elements of different eras of music backwards.
Yeah.
Like you referenced something like there was some bongo stuff from the 70s, and there was different stuff from the 70s and 80s and whatever. And you think, oh, well, that's out of place. It's a 90s episode, but that's kind of what the 90s and post that have kind of done. They kind of recycled. So I think that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So the last episode we're going to talk about is 7, and it's the modern, more ways than one, modern family episode. So
the main theme's titled WV 2000.
Yeah, by
Wandavision 2000.
By the Math Club.
Yeah. So did you read about the Math Club as well?
I did. Yeah, a little bit read about the Math Club.
Yeah, they're kind of interesting.
I
assume they were a score supergroup.
Yeah. I assume they were an actual band. I assume they were like this weird sort of like 2000 synth band.
Yeah.
But they weren't. So they were like a supergroup, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, supergroups are a very kind of loose term because I don't think any of them were particularly famous prior or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they're just this kind of these people have all had experience in score and stuff like that, and they all just sort of came together, and I think they're basically for hire. By the looks of it, you can sort of go hire them through their website and stuff like that. But it was pretty cool. Yeah, I had a little flick through their body of work.
We differ on this because for some reason I fucking love this. I fucking love this 20. I love the intro in general. I think is brilliant. Like
it is good.
I know it's not as good as I think it is, but I don't care. I'm dying on this hill. I'm dying on this hill.
Yeah.
So it's very much documentary style, and it's like it's basically, if you know the US Office, which 90% of the population of the Western world do, it's basically just a rip off of the Office. Visuals and music, it's virtually identical. Like borderline, it's like someone's done a royalty-free version of the Office theme.
Yeah.
But I just find it. I find it really like. I do really like it. Maybe I'm just basic like that. But what I think is actually worth noting here is that it has no lyrics in it.
Yes, yeah. It's really short as well.
It's the shortest by far.
The rest,
Which I think is kind of in line with the
way that kind of sitcom themes are done nowadays.
Yes.
They take up very little time in the episode compared to the...
Yeah, and there's no need to describe what the premise is or whatever it is, and there's no sort of grand arrangement. It's just like...
when you can literally Google it and see like the Wikipedia summary that just comes up straight away.
Yeah.
Summarises what the show is.
Yeah.
No need for a 3-minute title sequence that tells you every character's name and their kind of their archetype.
Yeah. And, I think, ironically, the big touchstone for this episode was Modern Family, and actually they got quite a comparatively long theme song for the era. But yeah, it's the whole episode is very like an homage to that, and it's one of the weaker episodes. But one of the also interesting things that, apart from the sort of very like synth heavy intro, is there's kind of a nothingy side plot with Darcy and Vision. They go off to this weird circus place, and there's loads of like polka, like loads of sort of circus polka stuff, which I really think is quite cool.
And then obviously in that episode, I guess the big thing from that episode
the breakout song,
obviously,
is Agatha All Along. I'm not going to sing it. Spoilers, yeah. I mean,
can I point out something quite interesting quickly I saw on IMDb? So on the soundtrack section of that episode of IMDb, right, the song comes up in the listing. And the song is titled "It Was Blank All Along," presumably because for people who haven't seen it yet, or when it was listed on IMDb, people didn't want to spoil it for people who hadn't seen it.
But hang on, but that doesn't make any sense because if you listen to it,
but it's also it's called "It Was Blank All Along." But what I find funny is that on the personnel beneath it. All the names are on it. Krisitin-Anderson Lopez, presumably she worked on it, obviously. Robert Lopez, you'd obviously expect him to work on it. Eric Bradley, Greg Whippy, Jasper Randall, Gerald White, they're the kind of the singers on the baritone. And Catherine Hahn. So if you know anything about the cast, it's not really a surprise who it was all along.
For God's sake, they haven't thought that through at all, have they? So I guess they can't get around that. I guess it would be like not illegal, but like against you have to credit her surely through the outlet, so you can't really get around that.
Yeah.
So why?
It was Catherine Hahn all along.
Yes, just the actress Catherine Hahn just turned up. That sounds like a Family Guy joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the song charted in the top 40.
Yeah.
After it week after it came out. There's a trap version.
Oh, excellent.
Which is exactly how I'd expect it. Yeah, you need to get on the trap version. It's fun. It's like do it once. My advice: do it once. It's great once. After that, you're like, actually, maybe this isn't amazing. But yeah, the trap version is incredible. Yeah, basically, there's a big reveal that the neighbor Agnes is Agatha, an evil witch from the comics. And they do
kind of an anti-hero.
An anti-hero in the comics, but more of a straight up villain at the moment in the show.
Yeah.
And they do what I'm a big fan of. They do like an impromptu mid. They do a mid. They do a mid episode new theme. So like it's like a new show started in the middle of the show.
Yeah, very kind of Monsters, Addams Family style. I think she speaks about it, doesn't she? Krisitin-Anderson Lopez. It's got that really kind of low end sax. That kind of roaring,
very raunchy,
Louis Armstrong kind of sax that's used on a lot of that sort of stuff.
It's very. I thought very cabaret. I can imagine in like even if they went slightly further,
extremely camp.
Yeah, you could have it almost on a stage doing it, with a boa and like dancers and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the actual show, they just do like what technically actually is
kind of Rocky Horror as well. I could imagine.
Oh, very Rocky Horror. That's a great shout. Yeah. But it's just her doing all like what she was doing all along. Did fingers for that. But well, not really worth dwelling on. But it turns out it wasn't actually her all along. But anyway, So it's really kind of like it's kind of very sassy and sort of like girl about town sort of thing.
Owning your bad side.
Yeah, all of that. And there's a bit I never picked up on before, which was it piano or harpsichord or something that plays over the top?
Yes, there's a harpsichord. I think just doing like the rapid kind of chord stabs. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a call and response bit in that, which is great. That I really like, which I think is quite subtle, and that obviously, like, I guess you can say it's very softly feminist in that, like, they're kind of subservient to her as the woman, like the group of men. Yeah.
And I think Krisitin-Anderson Lopez touches on that as well. That it's kind of like almost like weirdly empowering.
Yes.
She talks about kind of it. Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it's kind of that embracing your bad self kind of thing. Like it's power to the sisters being their bad selves and stuff like that. It's kind of that campy kind of fun, kind of.
Although I have to admit, like I mean, it's been in both our heads continuously since the episode. It's very, very catchy, and it's like it's been. I mean, it was so big that some of the actors went back, like Heather Hahn did a new round of interviews on the song itself.
Yeah.
But I have to say, again, going up to a point we made right at the beginning about how the sort of genre elements kind of are a little bit at odds with like the narrative and how they kind of impinge on each other. I found when they kind of scuppered her as a character, I feel like that song lost a lot of its sort of because it turns out it wasn't her all along, so it doesn't quite hit as hard, and also as a villain she's pretty weak. It turns out she's like a pretty sort of weird, sort of very throwbacky, cackly villain. Yeah. So the whole idea of that, I think the whole idea of the song is like, oh shit, she's capable of a lot of things because she's been playing the role and she's suddenly burst out. She's suddenly the evil villain. What's she capable of? And it turns out not a great deal. Yeah. So it kind of loses that, like having sort of the sort of the big I am, here I am, the evil queen. It's like, well, not really, because you're kind of shit. Yeah. No, that's a good point. But yeah, I think that's basically the bulk of the music from the show, really, and the soundtrack and the score. I think one last thing that I am interested to talk about is kind of the motif. So there's this particular motif that rocks up on every kind of theme, and I think it's even in Agatha all along, and it's used there's an altered version of it at the very end of the episode as well, when like the kind of when the credits are rolling. So it's this little motif that rocks up in every song. And the motif is built basically around a tritone, which in music is often referred to as the devil's interval. So it basically works as, if you have any kind of rudimentary knowledge of music theory or anything, it's the motif is basically an A note to an A note an octave down, and then up to an E flat, and then resolves with an E. So the devil's interval, or the tritone, is basically 6 half steps on a piano. So if you visualize piano keys, and each step is like white key to black key to white key to black key to white key, black key, white key, black key, white key kind of thing. So that each one of those is a half step, and so the A to E flat is 6 half steps, and then the E flat up to the other A, an octave up, is 6 half steps as well, because you have 12 notes in an octave. So yeah, it's
basically that kind of the devil's interval, or the tritone, was for a long time avoided in music. So the Latin term for it is diabolus in musica, which was the term that was applied to the interval since when some believed to be the late Middle Ages, where the church and music theorists, who were often members of the church themselves, believed that that interval invoked the devil and kind of like evil in music.
Oh, okay.
And there's some really fanciful stories I found online of kind of almost hearsay of like singers in the church being excommunicated or even punished more severely for using it. And regardless of the kind of accuracy or believability of that, it was avoided for a long time in music. It wasn't until Baroque and classical composers came along and they started to use it, but even they were kind of scared of using it in a way. They used it in a very controlled way. So they basically came along and subscribed to the tonal system, which is basically a form of musical grammar. It's the way you write out your music, kind of thing. So like a lot of different composers from different eras will use kind of different systems. And so yeah, the Baroque and classical composers use the tonal system. And so the way they would use the interval is through kind of the principle of tension and release, or tension and resolve. So you have that kind of A, E flat, E kind of thing. So it's like that. The lower A to the E flat kind of brings this tension, and that's what the church and kind of those earlier Middle Ages composers believed kind of invoked that evilness, because it's not that perfect kind of what you call a perfect fifth or a perfect fourth, where it's got that kind of almost that regalness, that holiness to it. It's a complete sound. It's what they call a restless interval. So it doesn't have that completeness to it, and it doesn't have that kind of pureness to it, and that's what they believed was kind of evil, or like the devil in the music kind of thing.
Okay.
So when the classical composers started using it, they would basically use it to increase, like to basically bring tension, and then they would resolve it. And so you can see that in the motif with the natural E after the E flat brings that kind of it's from that kind of tonal system mechanism of tension and release, or tension and resolve. So you have the A to the A. Then the devil's interval from the lower A to the E flat, and then it resolves with the E. So yeah, like basically it works in kind of like a meta sense, because obviously the show is like kind of it's very disconcerting, and it's kind of happy-go-lucky and stuff, but it has that kind of tension beneath it, and it also has that kind of almost that vibe of like that kind of creeping evil.
Oh yeah, very good.
And so I feel like in a meta sense, it was really clever of Bobby Lopez to use that in that way, because the motif is in everything, and it's that slight tension. The musical tension mirrors that kind of actual tension and that actual sense of slight disconcerting kind of tone in the show itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a really, really cool little thing worth mentioning from him.
So just to wrap up, I would say, splitting it into two as we did at the beginning, just to go over it. Yeah, I think an excellent exercise and experiment in genre TV.
Mm-hmm.
Not just genre TV, multiple genre. You got superhero, sitcom, and I guess off-kilter detective show.
Yeah.
All those three things layered on top of each other, which, given their ambition, they did pretty well. I just think that in the end, their ambitions got a little bit of the better of them in terms of narrative, but in terms of like the things that matter in this podcast, the music was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say score-wise, I would say it's the most impressive because of the range of any Marvel property. I mean, they have stronger soundtracks. Obviously, you're not going to quite get up with the big boys with Guardians and Black Panther, but
not a bad attempt.
But not a bad attempt at all.
Clearly, the soundtrack was neglected because of the strength of the score and the main themes and stuff. They didn't need to lean on the soundtrack in that way.
Yeah, I think so. And because it was so inappropriate, I don't think score and soundtrack was such a big thing back in the day, so you wouldn't have had it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are yours, Prentice?
No, I completely agree. Yeah, basically exactly what you're saying. I'm just disappointed that Doop didn't rock up. I know everyone wanted Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange, but I just wanted me a bit of Doop. Oh, do you not know who Doop is?
I don't know who Doop is.
Okay, well, I can give you a little bit of a rundown. I can ask you some questions about who Doop is, and give you kind of a vibe of who this character is.
I feel like I should know who Doop is the way you're asking me this question.
So what would you say Doop is most similar to? Is he most similar to a green potato, a purple shield, or a blue hammer?
Blue hammer.
Green potato.
Oh,
how many superpowers does he have? 2, 4, or 6?
6.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Who do you think Doop was created by? The US government, the Kree, or Baron Mordo?
The US government?
Yep. In the Cold War. He was a Cold War superweapon. Green potato with 6 superpowers. He held what position in the superhero team X-Statix? He was their transport, their cameraman, or their chef?
Their cameraman.
He was their cameraman. And he's also their transport occasionally too.
God, what is this?
How many brains does Doop have? 2, 6, or 10?
6.
No, he has 2. The extra one's in his butt.
Oh, God. What is this?
One time his normal brain in his head exploded and got scattered across Earth, and he swapped out into his butt brain and it allowed him to speak English. Normally he speaks Doop. And his butt brain allows him to speak English. In 2001, several websites claimed to have deciphered Doop speak, his language. How long would it be before Marvel actually revealed a true translation to Doop speak?
4 years.
13 years later, 2014.
God.
No one was asking for it, but we got it. And in the Marvel Universe, what is Doop's action film called that he's the lead star of?
Duped again or something?
No, Doopard.
Oh, God. Wow, okay, well, it's a shame he didn't rock up.
Yeah, I'm severely disappointed, to be honest. Good show overall, but fuck you, Marvel. You didn't include Doop, so...
You've been listening to Sink or Swim, a podcast by Prentice Mitchell and Jules Pistano. If you want more from the pod, you can find us at SyncOrSwimPod, all one word, on Instagram and YouTube, and you can find us at Sink or Swim on Facebook.
To get in touch, please send us an email at syncorswimpod@gmail.com. You can listen to this pod wherever you find your podcasts, with full episodes and clips going up on YouTube at a later date as well.